Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Lo-Fi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. License lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island License Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
Welcome to Sports Talk with RNGA. I'm Steve Risser along here with Justin D'Onofrio, and we got a busy week 3. We got a lot of good matchups. Dallas goes out to Chicago. We got the Chiefs trying to win their first game at MetLife Stadium. But we got to start week 3 with a really struggling team in the Miami Dolphins heading to Buffalo to play the Bills. Dolphins committed 0-2, Bills 2-0. And first we'll talk about the game, then we'll talk about Mike McDaniel. But for the game, I don't think this is going to be much of a game. I know the Dolphins played the Patriots tough last week, but even though the Patriots are improved, the Bills are clearly a better team. It's a short week. The Dolphins got to travel up to Buffalo. I think we're going to get a big week from Josh Allen. I think he's going to have 3 or 4 touchdown passes against this Dolphins defense that has really struggled. I think Tua is going to throw a pick or two. I think this game is going to be a 3-score game, and again, it could be even worse because the Dolphins are not in a good way right now. I mean, Mike McDaniel, and we'll get to him, but he's hanging by he's hanging by a thread right now. He's hanging by a thread in Miami, and I think this is going to be a blowout. I can't see this game being close. I got Buffalo. Buffalo right now looks like, I mean, on Sunday they look like, I know they played the Jets, but they look like one of the best teams in the NFL again this year, as expected. I got the Bills here. I got the Bills big here. I got the Bills big. I got the Bills 38-17 over the Dolphins. But Justin, can the Dolphins win in Buffalo for the first time in 9 years?
No, I'm with you here. I think it's a blowout. I got the Bills 34-17. They should have no problem going up and down the field against this defense. And I think Tua makes some plays, but I think there's some interceptions. I think he throws a couple interceptions this game. They really haven't got the running game going either. And I think they're just going to fall behind, and they're not really able to establish much of the running game in this one. So, yeah, I think this could be ugly. Josh Allen tears them up, and that offense looks really good yet again this week.
Yeah, it should. It should. With James Cook, with Keon Coleman. Yeah, this should be a big week for Josh Allen. And this and yeah, Miami just right now they just, I mean, Tua's not playing well. The coach, it looks like he's not completely lost the team. It looks like the defense, it doesn't have faith in him either. Tyreek Hill's been frustrated. It has just been an absolute mess in Miami to start the season, and I don't see it getting better.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I'm completely agree with what you're saying. I don't think it's going to fix. I don't think I've been out on McDaniels for a couple of years now. I've never thought he was a great leader. You can clearly see it right now. He's lost, there's not much, I don't see McDaniels getting the team to buy back in. And I don't know if this is a week they fire him, but it would make a little sense because you play Thursday night, you got the extra time off coming up, so this would be a week if they go out there and get absolutely throttled, which I think, we both think is going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised on Friday morning if they pull the trigger. I know it's early on, but, it's a longer week.
Yeah, and this leads me to my question. Will this be Mike McDaniel's last game as Dolphins head coach? Even if they get crushed, I'm going to say no, because it's just 3 games is too early. I think there's only been one coach. The last coach to get fired, with less than I think it was like the Seahawks. I think the last time that was happened was like 1982, the strike year. It was the last time a coach got fired, like less than 4 games into the season. They usually give coaches at least like the first quarter of the season to stick around. So I think it's eventually going to happen. I think it could eventually happen soon. Say they lose to the Jets on that Monday night game. I know it's a short week. It wouldn't make a little bit of sense because it is a long week. I get it. It would make a little bit of sense. But
didn't the Jets fire Salo after the Monday night loss last year? Wasn't that after Monday night?
No, it was after they got back from London.
Okay, all right.
It was after they got back from London. But yeah, I think that I don't see it happening. Even if they get blown out, and I know it's they have 11 days off till their next game. I don't see it happening. I think they stick with them, one more game or two after. Say they lose to the Jets and the Panthers after that. I think then he's done. Then he's done. Now, I think he's definitely going to be the first coach to be fired because it just seems like this team is just not what it was 2 years ago. Like 2 years ago, they were a playoff team. Remember, at this point, 2 years ago, we were talking about the Dolphins being potentially a Super Bowl contender because they had just hung 70 on the Denver Broncos. And we were talking about them being a Super Bowl contender, but now it just seems like an absolute mess. And he's eventually going to get fired. But even if they get crushed on Thursday, I still don't see it being Thursday because I think 3 games is – I just can't see a coach getting fired after 3 games.
Yeah, I get that because in their bye week too isn't like week 12, I believe. Like it's like right before Thanksgiving. So, yeah, you usually don't. You saw it too in college football, but if you watch Virginia Tech, UCLA, you could totally see why. And I could see the Dolphins team looking as bad as Virginia Tech or UCLA did. But yeah, it's very early to pull the trigger. I wouldn't be totally shocked if on Friday if they lose by 20 and they look lifeless again that he does get fired. But yeah, with the Jets and Panthers coming up, if they lose both of those, I could clearly see it before the week before the Chargers game. Because the Jets and Panthers aren't very good football teams and they look bad against those two. Especially too, it'd be a second, like with the Jets, it'd be a second standalone game. If you look lifeless there, in front of the whole country, I wouldn't be shocked that he gets fired next Monday night. So I know it'd be a short week, but yeah, I think it's coming on very soon. Wouldn't be shocked if it's Friday, but yeah, he probably gets another couple weeks.
Yeah, I could see. No, I definitely could see it being after the Monday night game because it would be another national TV game, a divisional opponent. They'd be 0-3 in the division and losing the home games to the Jets and the Patriots. So if they're 0-4, lose home games to the Jets and the Pats, and they still have to go there late in the season, and with the way they're playing, they'd have no chance of beating either of those teams. So yeah, I think at 0-4, if they start 0-4, there's a good. And we got Frank in there. Frank is already saying fire him. Frank is already saying fire him. So yeah, I think talking about the Dolphins, the Frank, I agree it's a waste of time. The only reason we're talking about him is they play tomorrow night. If they weren't playing tomorrow night, they were playing like a 1:00 game on Sunday. We would not be talking about them. But the only reason we're doing it is because they're the next game and they're playing tomorrow night. But for Frank, who is our resident Dolphin fan, he's saying do it right now. He doesn't even care if it's 2 weeks into the season. He wouldn't even say it's 2 weeks into the year because Frank would probably even know more than us. He's down there. Those Dolphin fans down there, I bet they hate Mike McDaniel right now. I think they're so ready. They're so ready for him to be fired.
Oh yeah, I don't blame Frank. It's bad down there right now. Because again, you saw the signs that last week for fire Greer, fire McDaniels. It's just brutal.
You watched the game. So you probably saw him in the stands.
Yeah, it was not great. Frank's comment out. Yeah, trying to get my hopes up. I totally understand where you're coming from, Frank. It's and they're a total mess. And yeah, they need a whole regime change. Yeah, because the guys just don't.
Yeah, he made a great comment. Chris Greer's got to go too. They all need to go.
Yeah, because it's just a total train wreck. McDaniels just isn't a leader. And they need a leader in that locker room right now, and he ain't one of them. And it's not going to get any better, And it looked so promising 2 years ago, and then just since that playoff game against the Chiefs, it's just been all downhill since. And finally felt like Miami was finally turning the corner, and it's all the momentum falling apart in not even 2 years.
Yeah, everyone liked Mike McDaniel at the beginning because he was this offensive genius. But we both said it even 3 years ago. Is he going to be a leader of men? And he hasn't. And that question has been answered. He's not. He's not. He's not a leader of men. He isn't. So yeah, it looks. I mean, you could argue Brian Flores is probably a better coach than him because I know him and Tua didn't get along. But those Dolphin teams had very low expectations. He had lower expectations, and he got more out of them. He had 2 winning seasons in 3 years. So you could argue he did probably a better job than Mike McDaniel, because you're a Flores guy. You were talking about Flores being the Patriots head coach.
Flores.
Yeah, you were talking about him being the Patriots head coach, and it's and then we got Frank again.
Yeah, I like that last round. I really like that. Yeah,
it starts from the top. McDaniel wants to be one of the boys, and you can't be if you are. That's a great comment there. You can't be one. Yeah, he just wanted to be one of the boys. He doesn't want to be an authority figure. Flores was an authority figure. He was a guy. He held people accountable. But Tua didn't like that. So ownership, got rid of him, which is turning out to being a bad move. Seeing what's happened right now with the Dolphins. Yeah, it worked in the beginning with McDaniel. They won games, but yeah, it's not working now. And him and Career definitely have to go. Tua, because they paid him, they're probably going to keep him, but. He's got to be better, or he'll be next. He'll be out with those guys as well.
Yeah, he'll be the next to go, and Frank's the last comment about it starts at the top, and McDaniel's want to be one of the boys. Yeah, that's trying to be a friend in a football locker room as a head coach. It's never they're just gonna walk all over you, and that's kind of seems what's going on, and like even too like I think it was that game against the Chiefs. He's vaping on the sideline. Like, what do you like?
The head coach,
I just they're a total wreck. Frank's last kind as the coach, I've never been a Tyreek Hill guy. I don't think he's a good person. With all the off the field issues he's had, he's not a good locker room guy. And they should have put the foot down to him, I think, years ago. But yeah, it starts on the top, and it's a total train wreck, and that's kind of what Miami's been for so long. Pretty much my lifetime, Miami's just been a total train wreck. They've had that. Yeah, they've been a total mess.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. They've been. Yeah, they haven't won a playoff game since in 25 years. They haven't won a playoff game. Now they've owned your Patriots the last couple of years, but the Patriots. That's not saying much. But now the Patriots have made a change and brought Mike Vrabel in, and that you saw on Sunday how that changed. So yeah, they have been a train wreck for the last pretty much since Marino retired. It's been that way. It's been that way. No playoff wins in 25 years. The best coach they had in that span, Brian Flores, they fired, which is turning into a mistake. So yeah, him and Chris Greer are definitely gonna be gone. I don't think McDaniel lasts the year. I think Chris Greer is gone at the end of the year, and we'll see what ends up happening. We'll see what ends up happening with Tua. But yeah, it is an absolute mess in Miami, and the Bills should blow them out. And let's see what Frank said. Yes, ever since Marino and Shula, the Fins have not. He's right about that. The Fins have not been the same ever since. Yeah, really, ever since Marino and Shula, the Fins have not been the same. So yeah, Frank is right about that. Frank is definitely right about that. So yeah, so tomorrow night, Dolphins, Bills. Bills should win big. And we've given the Dolphins almost 50. Who would have thought we'd be talking about the Dolphins for 15 minutes on a show? But when you have a coach that's about to be fired, that's what you do. So Dolphins Bills tomorrow night on Amazon. So Bills should win big. But we got to move on to the Sunday night game this week between the Chiefs and the Giants. I mean, the Chiefs. Who would have thought 0-2 to start the season? First 0-2 start from Patrick Mahomes. So the Chiefs start 0-2 for the first time since Patrick Mahomes has been there. And then they face another 0-2 team, the Giants. And as a Giants fan, you hate the fact that you got to face the Chiefs when they're 0-2 because the Chiefs are going to be desperate for a win. They're going to be desperate for a win. Now the Chiefs have their issues. I mean, they got some part. They have trouble. They're having trouble running the ball. They're receiving. They're very thin at the receiver position. Travis Kelce. Let's be honest. It looks like his best days are behind him. He had that dropped. That turned the game around on Sunday. That dropped. He dropped that ball and that interception. It wasn't Mahomes' fault. It was Kelce's fault. He dropped that ball, and Mahomes ended up throwing a pick, and that turned the game around because the Chiefs were going in to take the lead, and then the interception happened, and the Eagles ended up putting the game away. So yeah, the Chiefs. They've definitely taken a little bit of a step back this year, but luckily for them, they got the perfect opponent to get things to the perfect get right game against the Giants. And I think the Giants, offensively, I like the fact that Kafka had Russ throwing the ball down the field. I like the fact that Kafka called a game last week that, we called a game that he put Wilson in position to succeed. He called a game, throwing the ball down the field, doing what Wilson does well. But that ends the positives of things. Here are the negatives. Shane Bowen is a bad defensive coordinator. Shane Bowen is a bad defensive coordinator. 14 seconds to go, and you're playing 10 yards off the receivers at the end of the game. And you got one of the best kickers in the league in Brendan Aubrey, who could easily kick a 64-yard field goal. So, the first play, second play, they throw the ball right down the seam to Jake Ferguson. They throw the ball right down the seam. They get right into field goal range, and then guess what happens? He hits the 64-yard field goal, and then I know Russ throws a pick, but let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Russ should have never been in that situation. Never should have been in that situation where he had to throw that pick. That defense has got to close out that game. With the talent on that defense, they got 37 points should be enough to win more than enough points to win a game. The offense did everything they could have done to win that game, and the defense and Shane Bowen blew that game. And also, 14 penalties last week is inexcusable. Inexcusable to have 14 penalties. And that's on the head coach. And this is what we went back to last week. I know, I know a lot of Giant fans like to pick up Jackson Dart. The issue is now there's a good chance it's going to be an arranged marriage with Jackson Dart with a GM and a coach that doesn't want him, because I have a hard time seeing Daboll surviving this season. But getting into this game, I think the game is going to be it's going to be, relatively close, 7 to 10 points. I think Russ is going to play pretty well again. I think, you're going to see a lot more. I think you're going to see all year when Russ is in, the Giants throw the ball down the field. You're going to see him throw the ball down the field. I think he's going to have a pretty good game. But the issue is they're playing a desperate Kansas City team. I think Mahomes plays well too. I think he throws 2 or 3 touchdown passes. I think this game comes down to the end with either Mahomes with the ball in his hands, leading a game-winning drive, or the Giants not getting it done like they normally do. I think the Chiefs do what they do at the end of the game, and the Giants do what they do at the end of the game. I think it comes right down to the end, but I got to take the Chiefs here. I got the Chiefs here winning this game 27-20 over the Giants. But, Justin, can Wilson continue his success at MetLife Stadium and get the Giants their first win of the year?
I think they keep it close, but I have the Chiefs as well here, 24-21. Yeah, I agree. It's desperation here for the Chiefs, because especially the Chargers go 3-0. You're already 3 games back of your division. And that's a little problematic. I don't think, but so that but yeah, with the Chiefs this year, T Hector's comment here. Could the Chiefs bounce back 0-3?
Oh, here we had this conversation last week. Could the Chiefs bounce back if they dropped 0-3? It's so hard for me to see the Chiefs at 0-3. I can't see it. I can't see it happening. The Chiefs go 0-3. Now the Giants might. The thing about this Giants game is they could lose by 30 or they could lose by a touchdown. But I just think they're going to lose. They're going to lose because I just can't see the Chiefs fall to 0-3. A good question. Can the Chiefs bounce back from 0-3? There's only been one team in the last 25 years that has made the playoffs after an 0-3 start, and that's the 2018 Texans. So that's a really good question. Can the Chiefs bounce back and if they drop the 0-3? I think if they lose this game, I have a very hard time seeing them win the division. I really do. I can see a very hard time because the Broncos and Chargers play this week, and they're going to be 2 games behind. They're going to be at least 2 games behind. Because say the Broncos win and then the Chiefs lose this week, the Broncos are 2-1, and the Chargers are 2-1. And then it's even worse if the Chargers win and the Chiefs lose. The Chargers are 3-0 and the Chiefs are 0-3, and the Chargers beat the Chiefs. So if they lose this game, maybe I see them make the playoffs. But I think if they lose this game, they're definitely getting a wild card.
Yeah, they'd be in trouble because next week you go home and play the Ravens. Can that Chiefs offense right now keep up with the Ravens? I know the Chiefs defense is decent and maybe keep them in it, but they really can outduel Lamar the way that offense is rolling right now. I don't know. You still got the Lions at home. The Commanders, you still got a Buffalo. Like, it's a really tough schedule. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if they lose. They dropped 0-4. You got the Jack. You'll probably beat them on the road, but if they lose, I'm going to say they miss the playoffs this week.
Wow.
Yeah,
so you're saying they're not going to make the playoffs. I just can't.
If they lose,
I don't even care if the Chiefs start 0-4. I can never, ever count the Chiefs out. But you say if they lose this week, they're going to make the playoffs. Wow.
Yeah, you still got 2 to Denver. I know Denver doesn't look great early on. You still got the Ravens coming up next week. You got at Buffalo, which in the regular season they have not played well against the Bills. You got the Commanders at home. The Colts look like that's not going to be an easy one. And even like the Raiders haven't been a gimme for the Chiefs
No,
over
they
the
haven't
years.
been. You
You
saw
know,
those
of
games
late.
last year, especially that game
Yeah,
on Black Friday last year. On the day
yeah,
after Thanksgiving last year.
yeah. So I'm like, the Texans haven't looked great. So if they lose this one, I think they drop next week to Baltimore. I think they go like 0-4, and I don't think they're going to recover. They just don't have the weapons right now. There's too many pre-snap penalties. The drop passes, by Kelsey has a big one last week. And again, I said it when we did the season preview. You've already kind of seen them lose two one score game. You've already seen them lost twice in one score games. That's yeah. At some point they'll win a couple of them, but it's not going to be like the last couple of years where they won like 90% of them. So I just think right now that this is a little bit of down year for the Chiefs, and yeah, next year I think they'll tweak some things and they'll be right back in the playoff next year and right back. But if they lose this one, yeah, I kind of not going to totally write them off, but I think it's going to be very tough for them to make the playoffs.
You made a good point about the one-score games. You made a good point about the one-score games because they won a ton of them last year, and you're starting to see that not happen this year. You're starting to see that not happen this year. And another thing is the team that loses the Super Bowl is really in the last 30 years. The team that loses the Super Bowl is never better the next year. Only one team since the '90s Bills has returned to the Super Bowl after losing it, and that was the 2018 Patriots, the team that beat the Rams. So the team that loses the Super Bowl, because the 1 year in the 6-year stretch, guess what the 1 year was they didn't make the Super Bowl in the 6-year stretch? 2021, the year after they lost the Super Bowl, and it's looking very likely they won't make the Super Bowl this year because it's just the way it is. I just feel like it's the way it is. The Super Bowl hangover it's much easier for a team that wins the Super Bowl to get back to the Super Bowl the next year than the team that loses the Super Bowl. Like you've seen like 6 of the last 11 Super Bowl champions have gotten back to the Super Bowl the next year. Now it's tough to repeat. It's very hard to repeat, but it's not that hard to win the Super Bowl and get back the next year. It is brutal to lose the Super Bowl it is so hard to lose the Super Bowl and then get back to the Super Bowl the next year. It is so hard to do that. And that's why I don't think the Chiefs are. I don't think I thought in the preseason they were going to take a step back this year, and they've proven it so far.
Yeah, they have. It's been tough, and yeah, right now it looks like they're taking a step back, and they're really banged up, and they'll get guys back, and maybe they'll get it kind of going, but yeah, it just looks like to be down here. It's they made a real good point about it's a Super Bowl hangover, and teams have a tough time getting back there, and I think they'll find a way because they're just desperate this week. But I think the Giants give them all they can handle. One thing about the Giants too is that Hudson guy to do that
oh my God, that was terrible.
And yelling at Dable, they should be cut.
He should have been cut. I don't understand why he's not cut. I don't understand. That was. I'm happy we're getting to this.
That's a bad look.
Inexcusable. So did you see that? I saw it live. You probably didn't see it live, but did you end up hearing about it?
I had a quad box going on, so I had the quad box on, so I did kind of see. Yeah, I did see it.
You saw it happening? Oh my!
Yeah, I saw it happening.
That was a total train wreck. That was and it cost. I'm telling you, that cost them the game more than Dayball not taking the points in the third quarter after the interception. I didn't mind him going for it on 4th and 2. That personal foul Hudson had cost him the game because that was they would have been up 7-0 instead of 3-0, and then at the end of the game they would have been up by a touchdown and they would have won the game. That James Hudson penalty cost him the game. He should have absolutely been cut. And I don't want to see him play again. I want to see Marcus Bowe play left. If Andrew Thomas can't go, it should be Marcus Bowe because. Listen, he played pretty well in his first game. I thought he played pretty well on Sunday. I know Dallas' pass rush is terrible, but he played pretty well on Sunday. So yeah, I want James Hudson cut. That was inexcusable on Sunday. With all the penalties, that was inexcusable on Sunday. And the fact he's not cut, that's a reflection on Shannon Dayball. And at this point, there's a good chance they're not going to be back next year because it looks like they're on their way to another, 3-4 win season.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was going to be my next point. It's year 4 of this regime, and you're still having stuff like that go on. That's not a great reflection.
No.
And it's by year 4, that stuff should be cleaned up by now, and it's just not. And that's another instance of this regime's not going to make it, unfortunately. And it's definitely time for a It's definitely time because it looks like it's gonna be another 3-4-1 season, and it's unfortunate, but you said it at the beginning. When this team scores 37 points, you have to take advantage of win that football game. The defense let you down, and that defensive line I've been very disappointed with because that's supposed to be the strength of your team, and they really haven't shown up the first couple weeks.
They haven't shown. They've been decent, but they haven't shown up the way they should. They haven't shown up the way they
Yeah.
should. You score 37 points. You have all that talent up front. There's no way you should lose. There's no way you should lose that game. There's no way you should.
Yeah.
No way.
Because you can't run they can't stop the run either. Like that. Dallas too, which isn't a great running game.
I
And
know.
you couldn't stop them on the ground.
I know, and that's been a problem with Dayball since the beginning. The same issues are happening. Lack of discipline, not being able to stop the run. The same things are happening. I can't see this team. I mean, I like the performance Russ had, but the thing is the guy who played the best for the Giants on Sunday, that's not their future. That's not their future. Russ is not their future. He's pretty much a placeholder, and he's the guy who played the best. The stuff that you're planning on being your future. This staff was planned. There was a plan that they might stay longer after this year because of their connection to Jackson Dart. But with how pathetic they've been the first 2 weeks, it's hard to bring them back. That's the thing.
Yeah, it is. It's gonna with that schedule too. Like, there's not a couple weeks where you can kind of get yourself off the mat and get yourself on a winning streak here. There's not really that many opportunities to get that going. So, it's gonna be tough. It really looks like those two are gonna be out of the job and are gonna have to reset things. And then you worry about Dart and the new guy, and you're probably gonna have to talk to people that want and believe in Jackson Dart to be your next starting quarterback because the QB play this year college football from a lot of the top tier guys we thought were going to be good haven't played that well. So it's not like that no one quarterback sitting there right now. That's the future franchise guy. So you're good. It's going to cause more problems, and then it affects Jackson Dart that he's potentially going to have to go to a third different offense in three years.
Yeah. It's just not looking good. It's just not looking good for the Giants at all. It's not looking good for the Giants at all. So we'll move on to the Monday night game between the Lions and the Ravens, and this should be a really it should be a competitive game between these two teams. I mean, these are two teams that are probably predicted. They both bounced back from their Week 1 wins last week. Two teams that are going to be predicted to go deep into the playoffs in their respective conferences. Two really good rosters. And I know this game 2 years ago was a blowout, but it's going to be a really good game. I think a really good game between these two teams. But I think Derrick Henry's going to have a really good game on the ground. I think Lamar Jackson's going to play well, but I also think Jared Goff's going to play well too. I think they're going to move the ball. But at the end of the day, I'm going to take the team with the better quarterback and the better roster, and I'm going to go with the Ravens Monday night. I got the Ravens winning 31-24, but Justin, can Goff have a big game outdoors and lead the Ravens to an upset win in Baltimore?
No, I got the Ravens here as well, 30-21. I really like the Ravens spot. Lamar Jackson, his career on Monday Night Football is 72 with a 69% completion percentage, and he's got 22 pass touchdowns and no INT. So he's been awesome on Monday Night Football. I think he plays well again against this Lions defense that really hasn't looked great either. And I think this Ravens defense moves up and down the field. I think Jared Goff does make some plays to St. Brown, and Jameson Williams have some good games, but I don't think they're able to keep up with this Ravens offense, which again they only got 23 rushing yards, I believe, from Derrick Henry last week, and they still they didn't really need him a ton last week. They still put up points, so I get the Ravens at home here.
That's the thing about the Ravens. They don't even need Derrick Henry after that good of a week to put up points because you got one of the best quarterbacks in the league, Lamar Jackson. That's how good that offense is. Derrick Henry doesn't need to have that big of a week, and they could still score 30, 40 points. That's how great this offense is, and that's why the Ravens are clearly – them and the Bills are clearly the top two teams in the AFC, and it's not – right now, to me, it's not that close. It's the Ravens and the Bills, and it's not that close right now.
Yeah. I'm starting to believe in the Chargers a bit here because the thing with the Ravens, the big leads, like the Sunday night game Buffalo, like they just blown so many of those. It kind of worries me, but I do get it. Like I'm starting to buy into Chargers, but yeah, the Bills and Ravens should be meeting the AFC Championship game. But I am starting to buy. I'm starting to buy some stock in to the LA Chargers right now.
Chargers, they got a good coach. They got a good coach. Still, though, I still question them without Rashawn Slater. They're going to have Khalil Mack out for a couple weeks, so I'm not totally buying into the Chargers yet. But to me, it's the Bills and Ravens in the AFC. And for the Lions last week, they proved last week that they're still one of those top teams in the NFC. I know they played the Bears, but they beat them by 30, and they proved last week that they're still one of those top. They're still a top 3, top 4 team in the NFC with the Rams, Packers, and Eagles.
Yeah, they look good. It was a good bounce back for them against the Bears, which let me Chicago keep it close. But yeah, they they put a beat down on them, and you could see they're pretty angry from the way they looked week 1. And I think it kind of tells you more about how good that Packers defense is. So yeah, the lines looked a lot better. Jared Goff looked a lot better. So a lot of those concerns from last week I had going into kind of went away with the way Jerry. I know Bears defense isn't very good, but that looked like the Lions offense that we've seen the last couple of years.
It definitely did. But I think it's going to be a competitive game with them and the Ravens on Monday night. But I got to go with the Ravens here in a close one. But staying in the AFC North, we got to talk about Joe Burrow and unfortunately for him, he's going to be out. For 3 months. He got hurt. He's with a turf toe injury. He got hurt on Sunday against the Jaguars, and it's just sad. This is his third major injury in pretty much 6 years. Third major injury in 6 years. They're going to miss him, so it's tough for the Bengals. But it really begs the question, though: are the Bengals really putting them in a position to succeed with this garbage offensive line? This is so much on Mike Brown, and I'm not comparing the Cowboys and the Bengals financially because the Cowboys make more money, but in terms of the football operation, they're pretty much kind of the same because of not having a real general manager, having the owner be the GM. And this is what happens: you get a player like Joe Burrow, but he has trouble staying on the field because he gets hurt so much because the offensive line is garbage. So yeah, and the question is are the Bengals are going to be a playoff team? I mean, I know they won a couple games with Joe Burrow. I know they did, but I just don't see it happening without Joe Burrow. I don't see it happening. I don't think they're a playoff team with Burrow missing 3 months.
No, and I completely agree with you. It's on the organization right now. Yeah, you have a generational quarterback right now playing for you, and you can't build an offensive line around him. You can't even give him a defense to even help him out. Where if their defense was just decent, Joe Burrow would have a chance to take this team to the Super Bowl, more often. But they just haven't put enough around them on the defense side of the ball, the offensive line. They've got a great wide receiver core, great quarterback. Even the running game hasn't hasn't been great. There's not much else that you really like about that team. And you don't have a head coach that's going to really help develop. You can see what Al Golden does to a defense because if you've seen Notre Dame, they're really missing Al Golden right now. So I do think he's going to fix that defense, but he needs more talent in the room. So yeah, I don't think this team's making the playoffs. Unfortunately, I know the Steelers haven't looked great either. But I just behind this offensive line, Jake Browning's been a decent backup, but if they got weapons, I just don't see it because I don't think he's going to be able to put the numbers that Joe Burrow does. And with that defense, you're going to have to put up a lot of scores in the upper 20s to win games.
You are, and Jake Browning at times has played well in his career. Played pretty well last week when he came in. So Jake Browning has played well, but you can't rely on Jake Browning to carry you to to get you to the playoffs. You just can't. So yeah, that's why I'm out on the Bengals. And if they don't make it, Zach Taylor needs to be fired. Zach Taylor needs to be fired. Because the offense they play, they're always in empty 4 or 5 wide receiver sets. They're all they never are. Burrow was rarely under center. It's so hard for them to run the ball because Burrow's never under center, and Chase Brown has some talent too. So I'm telling you, if they don't make the playoffs, Zach Taylor's got to be fired.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because they're lucky that they're very lucky they're not sitting here today 0-2. They really are. So yeah, I'm with you. I've been out on Zach Taylor for years. I think we actually both have been out on him for years. And yeah, if this team doesn't make the playoffs, it's definitely time to make a change because you're lucky to have Joe Burrow right now, and Zach Taylor's not the coach to get him to. I know they've gone there once, but there's better options out there to help to be a better head coach for this team.
Yeah, there definitely are. There definitely are. And now we will talk about the battle of the backup quarterbacks. As we got Jake Browning for the Bengals, you got Carson Wentz for the Vikings, because J.J. McCarthy is going to miss 2 to 4 weeks. And I do think the Bengals are going to win this game, because I think the Vikings offense was a mess on Sunday night, and I think it's going to continue to struggle without Aaron Jones too. I think it's going to continue, and without Jordan Addison. I think this offense is going to really continue to struggle. I know the Bengals defense isn't good, but I think this offense is going to continue to struggle. And I think the Bengals pull the upset here. I think the difference is going to be, I think the Bengals I know they don't run the ball that well, but I think they run the ball a little bit better than the Vikings. I think Browning makes less mistakes than Carson Wentz, and I'm going to go with the Bengals here. I'm going with the Bengals 23-17 over the Vikings. But Justin, can Carson Wentz get the Vikings back on track this week and get them to 2-1?
Yeah, I think he does. I got the Vikings here, 23-18. Yeah, I know the offense for the Vikings has looked pretty bad and been a little bit disappointing, but I think Carson Wentz with Kevin O'Connell, I think plays decent in this one. I think he makes a couple more plays than Jake Browning does. I know Addison does hurt, but I think Jordan Mason have a pretty good game on the ground. T.J. Hawkinson too, or through the air, and I think the Vikings do enough. And I think with the Vikings pressure they're going to put on Jake Browning, I think he throws a couple of interceptions. I think that benefits the Vikings offense here with some short fields, and I'll take the Vikings to bounce back this week.
Now, with Burrow's injury, this really opens the door for one of these two teams, I think, to get into the playoffs, because these were teams, two teams that were projected, the Steelers and Patriots, two teams that were projected to be like 8-9 win teams that were going to compete for a wild card spot. But the Burrow injury definitely opens things up for these two teams, especially in terms of a wild card. It's going to be an interesting game in Foxborough on Sunday. And I'm going to go with the Patriots again. I'm going to go with the Patriots because I feel like they're going to be able to run the football better, because the Steelers' run defense has been horrible the first 2 weeks. Have been terrible, and I think they're going to be able to run the ball with this kind of three-headed monster here with Travion Henderson, with Ramondre Stevenson, and with Antonio Gibson. I think they're going to be able to run the ball well. I think Gibson will be Stevenson will be good catching balls out of the backfield. I really like what I saw out of Drake May last week. I really like what I saw out of Drake May, and I think this game comes down to one or two things: either Drake May leading a game-winning drive, or this Patriots defense making a bit like they did last week they did it twice with Harold Landry on the second to last drive of the game, and Milton Williams on the other second on the last drive of the game, making big plays, getting a couple big sacks there. I just think if the ball's in Rodgers' hands late, you know what happens when the ball's in Rodgers' hands late. We've seen it happen. We saw it happen last year. He's failed to get the job done. I think it's either going to be Rodgers with the ball in his hands and failing to get the job done, or Drake May with the ball in his hands and getting the job done. That's why I got the Patriots here. I got the Pats winning this one 23-20 over the Steelers. And Justin, can your Patriots pick off from where they left off last week and get their second straight win?
No, I got the Steelers in this one 27-23. Yeah, this defense I know the Steelers defense is bad. The Patriots defense too stinks. I know there's a chance Gonzalez can play, but I don't think he's totally fixing this defense in that secondary, because they need a lot of help in that area. And I think Rodgers picks them apart. I know Page got a little bit of pass rush going, but I still don't think it totally matters, because this secondary can't really cover. We talked about last week. I still don't know why Peppers is not on this team, because they desperately need help.
Now he's on the Steelers.
Yeah, I did see that today. So watch him make a bigger interception in this game. That will. Yeah, I could totally see that happen. But the Steelers defense the last 10 games, they've given up 28 points per game and over 300 yards a game in that time span. So, yeah, I hope Drake May moves the ball and plays well again this week against the Steelers defense that's really struggling. You mentioned it, especially to stop the run. But I think the Steelers offense is a little bit more than Patriots offense in this one, and they get done. I know the Patriots too. They're wearing the 90s Reds. The
classic Reds.
So they should, be nice if they can win in those. But they've only won one home game the last 2 years now, so it's not been. They've not played well at home. Hopefully, they can change the tide, but we'll see.
They definitely have not. And the funny thing is, guess what other team they're wearing the classic Reds against? The Giants. They're wearing the classic Reds against the Giants later this season as well. They'll be wearing them against the Giants too. But you brought it up with Christian Gonzalez. I do think if he is somehow able to play, it's going to make a difference, because the Patriots haven't played a lot of as much man coverage as they want to so far, because he's not been there. But if he's on the field, I think they're going to play a little bit more man coverage, and I think he'll be able to contain DK Metcalf. But there is a good chance that he won't play. And yeah, you've talked about this secondary. The secondary is not good, but you got to admit though, the move of Harold Landry was a really good move for this team. Harold Landry was a really good move, and Milton Williams was a really good. He proved to you last week, Milton Williams. I know he's not that good against the run, but he proved last week he can get to the quarterback.
Yeah, which they needed because they were not good last year, especially after they traded Judon. They needed another pass rusher or another 2 pass rushers. And yeah, Williams, I thought they overpaid a little bit, but you won 3 games last year. You're gonna have to overpay to get a guy like that. And he's a guy who won a Super Bowl, so I do like that kind of in the locker room. I think they need winning guys there. So I did like that, and like I like Harold Landry too. Yeah, you mentioned he had the big sack too last week. So he's played with Rabel before. I think he's already got 3.5 on the year. So Landry's been good. Yeah, they really need to fix that secondary. If this thing bottoms out and they win like 5-6 games, do whatever you have to go get Caleb Downs, please, in the first round.
I mean, it's 5 or 6 games. Elliott Wolf's going to get fired. There's no doubt. Mike Vrabel will kick Elliott Wolf out of the building. I don't care if he.
Yeah,
works, I don't care. I don't care. What do you say? I don't care if
I wouldn't be fine with that. I'm like, look at his 2024 draft right now. Maybe he's the only one that's like on the field.
I know. Polk is gone too. That's the other issue. That's why. I mean, Drake May. I was really impressed with him last week. I was just so impressed with Drake May last week because the offensive line is still struggling. They really don't have a bona fide number one. I know Booty's played pretty well, but they don't have a bona fide number one receiver. I was really impressed with Drake May last week, and I think he outplays Aaron Rodgers this week. That's why I think the Patriots win, because I think he outplays Aaron Rodgers. But back to my Elliott Wolf.
Right.
Yeah, but back to my Mike Vrabel Elliott Wolf point. If Mike Vrabel wants Elliott Wolf out of that building, Elliott Wolf will be out of the building. There's no question about it.
Oh, I completely agree with you there. He absolutely will. This thing, which I don't know. You seem higher than I am. I think this is like a 6-win team right now. You still think they could get a wild card? I'm not.
I like the coach. I think the coaching with Vrabel's really good. I like the coach and the quarterback. I'm not the biggest fan of the GM, but I like the coach and quarterback. That's why I still think. I know they lost to the Raiders week 1, which was a bad loss, but I do think they can get a wild card because it's a coach quarterback league, and I don't love the roster, but I like the coach and I like the quarterback. I like the coach and quarterback. That's why.
Yeah, you're a little bit more optimistic than I am right now. I think I was a little. I think I know, like I said last week, May better play well. I was probably a little bit too. I need to give him more time. Like the regime he played under last year, it's probably not totally fair to judge him off of last year with everything he had. And I like Vrabel, but yeah, this roster's in need of a huge upgrade. And I do like Vrabel. I do hope they're moving in the right direction. It'll be good to get Gonzalez out there, hopefully. You because he's going to help that defense. Yeah, they could play a little bit more man coverage. I still I don't. It's not going to totally fix the defense. I'm just surprised how bad it's been. I thought like in the back end they'd be a little bit better than they've been playing. But yeah, so like I still think they're a year away, and I think they're going to have a lot of money off this offseason. I don't think it would happen, but the Bengals really fall apart. Did you make a move to go get Trey Henderson, or do you wait in the offseason? Like I would.
We'll see, yep.
They need somebody like I like Kendry, I like Williams, but they can get somebody like a Trey Henderson in there, be a pass rusher too. I'd really like that as well.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening there. Big game between the Pats and the Steelers at 1:00 in Foxborough on Sunday. But we'll move on to the 4:25 game, and that is between the Cowboys and the Bears. And I know the Cowboys won last week, but their defense was absolutely terrible. And, I know the Bears haven't looked good. The Bears have not looked good the first 2 weeks of the season. But sometimes, especially week 3, when a team's 0-2, they're desperate. And I think this is the week where we see Ben Johnson and Caleb, this thing between Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams come together. I think we do see it come together this week. I think Caleb Williams is one of those, plays one of his, I might be totally wrong about this. He might be terrible. And he might have go out and get off to an awful start, and the fans might start booing. The Bears might lose by 2 scores this week. But I see Caleb Williams, because who would have thought Russell Wilson would have the week he had llast week? I think Caleb Williams is the same thing. I think Caleb Williams has a big week against this Cowboys defense. And I think the loss of Cooper Beebe is going to hurt the Cowboys. I think it could lead to some interior pressure and some turnovers from Dak Prescott. I think this game is close and competitive at the end. I think it's tied. But I think Caleb Williams leads the game-winning drive for the Bears. And I got the Bears winning this. I know the Cowboys won last week, but I was very unimpressed with their defense. I got the Bears winning this game 27-24 over Dallas. But Justin, can Dak and the Cowboys stay hot and get their second straight win?
No, I'm with you here with the Bears too, 30-27. I'm with you. I think it's a desperation effort from Chicago. And if Caleb Williams can't find the holes in this Dallas defense, like you mentioned, Russell Wilson did last week, then we really need to start having this conversation about Caleb Williams. And I think he's gonna find those holes this week. I think they have a pretty good game this week. I know in the last 13 games the Bears are like 1-12 and they're only scoring 15 points a game. I think they double that this week. You saw how quickly Dallas got on the phone after the game last week and brought in Clowney. That was literally 10 minutes after.
Yeah, exactly.
It was it was very fast. So I don't know how much of a presence he's really going to make this week, but I think Caleb Williams plays pretty well. And I know that Dak Prescott's going to go up and down the field against his Bears defense as well here. But yeah, I'm going to take the Bears in desperation effort at home to beat Dallas here.
And this is a defense that Caleb Williams probably knows better than probably the defense he practiced against with the Bears, because he practiced against this defense last year every week with Matt Eberflus, who plays absolutely no man coverage. You know what you're getting. You're getting zone coverage the entire game. You know exactly what you're getting the entire game with Matt Eberflus. So I think Caleb Williams, this is going to be one of Caleb Williams' best games. And the Bears want to. I feel like actually Caleb Williams, he wants to beat Matt Eberflus. The Bears want to beat Matt Eberflus. I feel like they do. So I'm going Bears here. I'm going Bears to get their first win. You got to pick some of these 0-2 teams to get wins because they're going to be so desperate. You got to pick them to get wins. I'm going with the Bears here in the prime spot, the 425 spot. I got the Bears beating the Cowboys 27-24. But we'll move on to another big matchup in the NFC. And I'm surprised this wasn't a 425 kick because you got 2-0 teams with the Rams and the Eagles. The Rams, let me tell you, the Rams were the team that was the closest to beating the Eagles last year. And I think this is going to be another close competitive game. I think it's going to be another close competitive game. But what has happened? What has been the common theme when the Eagles have played the Rams, the last couple of years? The running game of the Eagles. And I think Saquon Barkley is the game where he goes for over 100. I think that Jalen Hurts, continues to play well. I think Stafford plays well here. I do think Stafford plays well, but I think he makes that one mistake in the game, which comes back to hurt the Rams. That's why I'm going to go Eagles here. I think it might end the way it ended last year with Stafford with the ball in his hands trying to win the game and him not get it done. So I'm going to go Eagles here. I got the Eagles 27-21 over the Rams. But Justin, can Matthew Stafford and the Rams get revenge on what happened last year in the playoffs in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I got the Rams here 24-21.
Wow, we're going Rams.
Yeah, I'm going to take them the revenge spot here. I know the Eagles offensively haven't totally gotten, they've been kind of stuck in neutral. Besides, the running game's been pretty good. I do think they're going to have a decent game on the ground. But the thing is right now, how scared are you of the Eagles passing attack? I think the Rams could put 7-8 in the box, and because something seems off right now.
I said it last week. A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. I know A.J. Brown made that great catch before the half last week, but something is off. That's a good observation. Something is off between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. That's a really good observation there.
Yeah. I know he probably catches for 35 yards or something last week. So it's still not great. I see he had kind of too
early to say, but however, based on the quality of their opponents, who looks better going into week 3, Green Bay or Philadelphia? Great question, Hector. I'm going to go Green Bay. I think I trust their passing game a little bit more, and I think their defense is. But the Eagles' defense is really good as well. But they lost some pieces on that defense last year. They lost Darius Slay. They lost Josh Sweat. So they lost some pieces on that defense. And they lost Milton Williams too. I'm going to agree with Hector. I'm going to say Philadelphia, and I'm going to say Philly because. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to say Green Bay because I think their defense is better and I like their passing game better. I'm going to. I picked the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl, but right now I'm going to say Green Bay. But Philly has looked great. Let's just say Philly's looked really good as well. Even though they barely beat Dallas, they've looked good as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. With the Packers. I've been really impressed with them, and they should have beat the Commanders by even more than they did last week. Their defense is nasty, and I only think that Packers team's gonna get better because of how young they are. And that team, I think by November, December, with time they peak, it's going to be very scary to play. So, and I think Jordan Love's going to continue to get better. So, I'm with you. I right now would I take the Packers to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl right now.
And now that you have the Rams beating the Eagles, do you still think the Rams are a top 3 team in the NFC? I think they're 3 or 4. I think they're a top 4 team in the NFC. But you probably think they're a top 3 team in the NFC, seeing that you have them going into Philly and beating the Eagles.
Yeah, if I get a 100% Matthew Stafford, then yes. The back is a little concerning as we get as the season gets on. But if he's healthy and he's playing well, yeah, because I really like the young defense they have, especially up front. I think they got a solid running game. Puka Nakua is a really good wide receiver. Adams has looked really good so far. I think he had over 100 yards last week. So I do like this Rams team. And I think I said it when we did the season preview. If the back wasn't a question going into the year, I would have had the Rams in the NFC Championship game. So, I am very high on the Rams. It's just, there's a part of me just with Stafford's age with the back has me a little concerned. But if he's all healthy, we're taking that out of it, then yeah, I'm really high on this Rams team.
Yeah, it should be an interesting game in Philly between the two. You got the Rams in an upset. I got the Eagles. Should be a very, very interesting game in Philly between these two teams. Now moving on to an NFC team we haven't talked about that much, being that that top being a contender. I would say they might be in that conversation too, and that's the Buccaneers. And they come into this game banged up with, I don't think Wirfs is going to play. I don't think Godwin's going to play. I think Gedeke got hurt as well. For them, they got a couple tackles out. But luckily for them, even though they're on a short week, they got the Jets. And they should be fine because they have the Jets. And you could say, oh, the Jets might be able to move the ball on the ground. They're going to have trouble because the Buccaneers are really good at stopping the run. That's the strength of Bucs defense. And Justin Fields will be out this week. Could be Tyrod Taylor. I think the Buccaneers control this game in the run game. Maybe the Jets get some pressure on Baker, sack him a couple times, but I think that the Bucs run the ball really well against them. I think they move the ball against them, and I think their defense forces Tyrod Taylor to turn the ball over a couple times. And I got the Bucs here winning by 2 scores. I got the Bucs 26-10. But Justin, can the Jets' run game lead them to an upset win in Tampa?
No, I'm with you here. I got the Bucs 23-13. Yeah, it's a short week. Bulls go up against the former team. I know it's been a while, but I think Foles is going to tee off on Tyrod Taylor. I think their running game I think they're going to pretty much stop the Jets' running game. And yeah, Tyrod Taylor, maybe he makes a couple plays through the air, but I think it's going to be very difficult in this one. Yeah, even off the short week, with Baker, the hits that he took in that game, yeah, maybe he's even going a little banged up. But, that Jets defense, too, is not very impressive. And I do think Baker plays pretty well in this one. And, yeah, I think with all the injuries, you mentioned it, with all the injuries the Bucs have, there could be sitting 3-0. And when they get the guys back, yeah, they could be somebody maybe sneaking up there. Nobody's really talking about. So, yeah, I'm with you here. I think the Bucs take care of business in their home opener.
All righty, we got a matchup in Carolina between the Panthers and the Falcons. I think this is a close, competitive game. Panthers beat them at the end of last year, but I think with some of the O-line injuries the Panthers have are going to hurt them in this game because I think that'll force Bryce Young to make some mistakes. I think Bijan Robinson has a good game, and I think Michael Penix, those videos of last week, managed the game, managed the Falcons to a win. I think it comes right down to the end. But I got the Falcons here. I got the Falcons winning 24-20 over the Panthers. But Justin, can Bryce Young lead the Panthers to their second straight win against the Falcons?
No, I'm with you. I got the Falcons 20-20 here. I think Penix bounce backs has a pretty good game against a horrible Panthers defense. And I think Bijan Robinson has an awesome game on the ground. And, the Panthers really have struggled to get that ground game going this year. And, the Falcons pass rush too it looks much improved from last year. So I do think they get pressure on Bryce Young. I think he makes a couple interceptions in this one, and I'm going with Atlanta here on the road.
All righty, we talked about the Packers earlier in the show. They're 2-0. They face the 0-2 Browns. I do think Myles Garrett, with his passionate, comment after the game last week after they got embarrassed to the Ravens, I don't think the Browns get embarrassed because a Myles Garrett-led defense is going to show some pride. I think they compete at home. I think they compete in this game. But at the end of the day, I think this is a close game in the first half, but by the second half, I think the Packers pull away. I got the Packers because I think Micah Parsons gets a sack or two on Joe Flacco. I think they get pressure on Flacco and force him to turn the ball over a couple times. I'm going Packers here. I got Packers by double digits. I got the Packers 24-13 over the Browns. But Justin, can Garrett's comments inspire the Browns to major upset Sunday at home?
I get the Packers here too, 27-10. Yeah, I think this should be a blowout. I think Jordan Love does what he's got to do, and I think that Packers defense is going to force Joe Flacco to make a turnover too. I think short fields for the Packers, and they benefit off that. And yeah, I think Myles Garrett can cause some havoc in this one, but I just don't think it's going to be enough in this one. I think the Packers take care of business, and do the Browns soon pull the trigger on Joe Flacco and start Dylan Gabriel anytime soon? Because they're not finding magic anymore.
I can see it happening. That's why I said, even though Shedeur Sanders looked terrible in his last game, I wouldn't be shocked if they did if they did it and went to Shedeur Sanders later in the season. So we'll see what happens there in Cleveland. They're in for a brutal game on Sunday against the Packers. But we'll move on to a game in D.C. as the Vegas Raiders on a short week travel to D.C. to take on the Commanders. And I do think that Ashton Genty has a good game on the ground. I think Geno Smith plays better in this game. And there's a chance Jaden Daniels won't play. And I don't think he's going to play. But I do think Marcus Mariota is a very capable backup and can run the offense. And I think he's going to be the quarterback. If he plays and Daniels doesn't, I think he's the quarterback who makes less mistakes. And that's why even without Jaden Daniels, I think the Commanders win this game. I got the Commanders winning this one 24-19 over the Raiders. But Justin, can Geno Smith bounce back from what happened last week and get the Raiders to 2-1?
No, I got the Commanders here as well, 24-16. It's a big rest disadvantage here for the Raiders. Washington's been off since played Thursday night. Raiders late game Monday night. Now you got to travel east for a 1:00 game on Sunday. Brock Bowers hasn't looked healthy, and that offensive line for the Raiders, it's so tough because Genty's just getting swallowed up, when he hits the line of scrimmage. So I think for him it might be difficult to try to get anything. It'd be tougher. It's just tougher. They really need an offensive line to help them with that running game. And Geno too looked like the guy from we saw like a rookie year, just not accurate at all, kind of just throwing it into coverage. He was awful on Monday night, and I think Mariota's a capable backup. Like you said, I think he's a capable backup under Cliff Kingsbury. I think he plays well, and I think the Commanders get this one 24-16.
All right, AFC South matchup in Tennessee, and we got one of the surprise teams so far, the Colts, with Daniel Jones and the way he's been playing. They are 2-0, had that great win last week against the Broncos. They're 2-0. Titans 0-2. I do think Cam Ward, though, and the Titans compete here. I think they compete here, but I think eventually the more talented team and the team with the better quarterback is going to win. I think Jonathan Taylor's going to have a big game. I think Daniel Jones is going to have another good game. Again, I think Cam Ward competes, but at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the more talented team here in the Colts. And I got the Colts going to 3-0. I got the Colts beating the Titans 28-20. But Justin, can Cam Ward lead the Titans to their first win of the season?
No, I got the Colts as well, 28-16. Daniel Jones played really well. Jonathan Taylor looks like a guy from a couple years ago. He's been really, really good, and he looks fresh. And then off of the line too has been unbelievable. They played really well here early on too, and the Titans too, I think, are gonna have a tough time stopping the run because they're getting up over 5 yards per rush early on here, and I think the Colts dominate on the ground and they take care of business here, win by a couple scores.
Yeah, you think by a couple scores. I think by one score. I think Tennessee in a division game competes, but I do think the Colts get to 3-0. Now, staying in the AFC South, and this is a huge game for Houston, huge game for the Texans. They are at 0-2, and they travel to Jacksonville to face the 1-1 Jaguars. And I think this is going to be a close, competitive game. I think it's going to be a struggle offensively for both teams. Because I think, you saw on Monday night how Houston got to the quarterback. They got a really good pass defense with Will Anderson, with Danielle Hunter. Then you got the back end. You got, Stingley and Lassiter. So I do think they get pressure on the quarterback. They sacked Lawrence a couple of times. But I think they're going to have trouble on offense again. And this is why, if the Texans don't win this division, Nick Caserio is got to be fired. Because outside of Micah Parsons, the Laramie Tunzel trade was the worst trade a team made this offseason. It's not talked about enough. It should be talked about. It was an absolutely pathetic trade by the Houston Texans. The weakness of your team is your offensive line. You traded your left tackle because he has some false starts. That is inexcusable. So if they don't make the playoffs this year, Nick Caserio has got to be fired. Got to be fired. Because right now, he's looking like another failed, guy who came from New England as a GM. He's starting to get in that category with the John Robinsons who traded A.J. Brown. He's getting to that category of the Bob Quinns who were an absolute disaster in Detroit. So, yeah, if Texans don't make the playoffs this year, Nick Caserio should be fired because this is the time you don't have to pay C.J. Stroud yet. This is when you should be winning games. This is when you should be, getting guys, adding guys to your team, not trading guys away. So I think this is a close competitive game, but I just don't see C.J. Stroud going 0-2. I think C.J. Stroud competes and he wins this game, and this Texans defense wins this game too. But Justin, the question here is can Lawrence and the Jags get a win this week and put Houston in even more trouble and get them to 0-3?
No, I think the Houston Texans about back here 23-20. I like your Caserio point there. He's learned from that was definitely taken out of a page of Bill Belichick's school of GMing.
Of course it was. Yeah, his school of GMing, which gets you. You see how that worked for John Robinson. How'd that work for Bob Quinn? Not well at all.
No, and Billy Wolf does get fired. Nick Casario and gets fired, Casario gets fired from Houston, I think we both know who could very well be the next Patriot GM. It's Nick
Oh
Casario.
God! Oh
You
my
would
God!
think, right? Vrabel
Fire.
probably bring back.
What do you
You
say?
think?
Fuck,
You would
no, they're
think
gonna,
Casario,
no.
they bring it back.
It'll be Ryan. It'll be Ryan Cowan. Ryan Cowan was with him. He might be the assistant GM, but Ryan Cowan will be the GM if Elliot Wolf gets fired.
Okay, if they bring, I'd be fine with that. I'm not the biggest Nick Casario guy, but yeah, I think the Texans here, another desperation team. I think they get the win. I know their offensive line is awful, but that Jags offense, it hasn't been great. Like Brian Thomas looks like he's, something's off with him right now. The Jags offensive line has actually sneakily played pretty well. The Texans defense, I think, makes enough plays here. Probably turned over Lawrence once or twice. And they do find to get the win here because this is another team where they dropped 0-3. The Colts moved to 3-0. You could pretty much write them off for winning the AFC South.
Well, this is a huge game for Houston. Houston needs this win. Yeah, because the Colts got a. They play the tight. They could potentially get upset because it's a division game, but yeah, the Colts very good. They're in a good. There's a very good chance they'll be 3-0. So Houston's got to win this game. They have got to win this game and get to 1-2 on Sunday. We got an AFC West matchup in LA as the Chargers take on the Broncos. And I'm going to go with an upset here. I think that the Broncos are going to win this game. I think with Khalil Mack out, and I think the Broncos pass rush it's going to be a close game, but I think the Broncos will be the team that runs the football better, and I think they'll get more pressure on the quarterback. That's why I'm going to go with the Broncos. I know they didn't do that well last week, but I think they bounce back with this week and do it. I think they're angry from what happened last week in Indy. I think they do it this week. I think this is a close competitive game, but I think the difference is going to be the run game of Denver with Dobbins and Harvey and the pass rush of Denver. I think it's going to be the difference here. And I'm going to go with the Broncos here to win this one, 24-20 over the Chargers. But Justin Herbert's played great so far. Played really well. And we mentioned the Chargers earlier in the show. Do you think Herbert can stay hot and get the Chargers to 3-0?
Yeah, I think they do. I got him 24-18 in this one. Herbert's looked really good. Quentin Johnson, the couple times they've hit him downfield, they've taken the shots. As long as he's catching the football, he's very effective. They still got Ladd McConkey and Harbaugh's bread and butter is running the football, and they really haven't gotten that going yet. And they're gonna, and eventually they're gonna get that running game going. Maybe it's this week because, the Broncos just haven't clicked yet, and Bo Nix hasn't looked great. And I really like that Chargers defense. I think they have 15 pass deflections last week against Geno Smith. I think that defense is for real. I'm really starting to buy into them. And to try to win this game, they're 3-0 and already beat their three peers in that division too. So win here for the Chargers to put themselves up in really, really good position. So I'm going to take Harbaugh on the Chargers here at home.
And you mentioned it. They haven't run the ball well, but Quentin Johnson, he stepped up so far. I'm telling you, Quentin Johnson has stepped up. And that was really what they were really missing is that threat on the perimeter, that threat on the outside last year. And if you could be that guy, you got McConkey in the slot in that run game. As you said earlier, Chargers they have a very good chance to win the West if they can get that running game going consistently. They got a very good chance to win, even without Rashawn Slater. That's a loss, but even without him, they still have a really good chance to win the West.
Yeah, they do. And I thought Slater was going to be a huge loss, and it definitely hurts not having him. But they've done a really good job so far, kind of in his absence right now. And I've been really just impressed with him so far. And I think Amari Hampton's going to get it going. I know Najee Harris too. I think they're going to get that running game going. And they got the weapons. With Quinn Johnson and just having Keenan Allen there as well, just as a safety blanket for him as well. So I really think the Chargers could be the third best team in the AFC, and I think Harbaugh's doing a really good job. And I was a little skeptical going into the year on their defense, but I really like the way it's been playing so far.
Yeah, they're going to miss Khalil Mack this week, though. But they'll eventually get him back, so they'll be in good shape on that side of the ball by the middle of the season. But we got an NFC West matchup of two undefeated teams in Santa Clara as the 2-0 49ers face the 2-0 Cardinals. I think this is a close competitive game. I think Mac Jones is going to continue to play pretty well. As he probably shouldn't be that surprised seeing what New England gave, who he had as offensive coordinator especially in his second year there, and that pretty much screwed him up. But he played pretty well last week. I'll give it to him. But I'm going to go with the team here that's more healthy, and that's the Cardinals. I think Kyler Murray, I know he threw that bad pick last week, but he's played pretty well these first 2 weeks of the season. I think it's a close competitive game, and I think it's going to come down to the ball in Kyler Murray's hands. And I think Kyler Murray's going to do what he did last year to the 49ers, lead a game-winning drive. I think he does it because the Niners, they're better defensively with Salah, but they still have lost a lot of pieces on that defense. And the Saints did, we're close to winning that game last week. So I don't think the Niners defense isn't as talented as it was a couple of years ago. So I think that Kyler Murray leads a game-winning drive here, and I'm going to go with I picked the Cardinals to be a playoff team. They were my last playoff team in the NFC. So I got to pick them here against the Niners backup without Brock Purdy. Mac Jones is a really good backup. I got to go Cardinals here. I got the Cardinals beating the Niners 23-21. But Justin, can Mac Jones stay hot and get the Niners to 3-0?
Yeah, I got San Fran in this one 21-20. You mentioned it. Mac looked really good last week. And the Cardinals, I still got to see it from them. They beat. I know that they both played the Saints early on. I have to see the Cardinals just beat Carolina. I got to see the Cardinals play somebody with a pulse this week and look at, because they almost. I know they got by 2 scores last week. They almost blew it. Carolina, did recover that onside kick last week. I think Mac plays well. I think that running game gets going with Christian McCaffrey. They're only averaging 3 yards a carry right now. And I think they scheme up enough for Mac Jones that he plays well enough, and he leads San Francisco to 3-0.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he does. Now, I think Kyler Murray wins this game, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mac Jones leads them to 3-0 because he's a really good backup, a guy Kyle Shanahan wanted going to the draft. So he's a really, really good backup, Mac Jones, and he proved it last week. We'll wrap up talking about the Saints and the Seahawks. I know the Saints have been competitive the first couple of weeks, but I think this week the Seahawks win by a couple scores. I think that Kenneth Walker has a good game on the ground. I think Darnold throws a couple touchdown passes. Now, Sam Darnold will make a mistake like he does every game to maybe keep the Saints in it, but I think the Seahawks defense forces Rattler to make a mistake or two. And I got the Saints here. I got the Seahawks here. I got the Seahawks here 27-13. But Justin, we keep asking this question: can Spencer Rattler get his first win as the Saints quarterback?
No, I think that we could wait another week. I got the Seahawks here 24-14. I think Brencher hasn't turned the ball over yet, and I think the Saints have been pretty feisty early on here. I think Kellen Moore's doing a good job getting those guys going for the talent deficiencies that they have. But I think Seattle, who's only 1-7 in the last 8 games, I think Sam Darnold plays well. I think they bounce back. I think they win this game, go to 2-1 here.
Yeah, they should win. They should beat the Saints at home. Big opportunity for the Seahawks. They haven't played as well at home recently. There's a big opportunity for the Seahawks to get to 2-1. But that's going to wrap it up this week for this episode of Sports Talk with RNJ. We'll be back in about 10-15 minutes to talk about the Yanks holding on last night by holding on against the Twins and week 4 of the college football season. So make sure you tune in for that.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group. And here at CMG, we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All 4 Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men. And great true crime shows like Sticky Week, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Bird, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting clovercrestmedia.com.